Okonkwo, and welcome to my YouTube channel. All right, it's good to see you guys. And please don't forget, we have Super Chat now. So this means you can click and support what we do. And don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share, to comment, and all the other things you're supposed to do on this channel. Okay, and again, don't forget we have sister channels. My wife's channel, Mildred Kingsley Okonkwo, our official relationship channel, LDM with PK. Then we have Wholesome Sexuality and Just Us Girls Global. All right, so all these channels are designed to bless you, so please make sure you subscribe and follow. But today is a special day. All right, I'm shooting right here from Atlanta, from Atlanta, USA, and I have a good friend of mine in the house. He's an infidelity recovery specialist. I never knew that existed until I met him. He's an infidelity recovery specialist and is world-renowned, one of the most profound coaches and speakers and counselors and therapists I've ever met. And we've done a few things together, and I'm happy to be shooting from Atlanta right here in his city, in his studio. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me, Hasani Pettiford.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always an honor to be in your presence. I mean, you're doing some amazing things around this globe. Wow. And I'm equally as inspired and encouraged by what you and your wife do. You're making an impact that's really transforming the lives of so many people.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Such nice words. Such nice words. So, as you know, he's an infidelity recovery specialist. So this means we're going to talk about infidelity. You know, Hasani, for a long time, especially in my part of the world, in my country, and I'm a pastor also, so in churches generally, once infidelity and cheating of some sort happens, the general thing people just do is, apologize to each other, and just move on, forgive and move on. And to be honest, for many years as a pastor, that's what I did too, because that's all I need. And years later, when I really became professional about this, and I knew that there was a proper way to deal with infidelity, and thank God for people like you that are quite vocal and represent that. So for us, we're so happy to be able to help people better now, with the whole thing. And just in case you are in that situation, you can reach out to our ministry or to his ministry. We both do infidelity recovery. There's a process to it. And we'll talk about that in the subsequent videos. But for this video, where we are starting, in fact, I had a horrible advice one time. There was infidelity between a man and his wife. I think the guy was a pastor, I can't remember. And the board came together. And the advice they gave the lady was she should buy more sexy lingerie.
That does not surprise me. That does not surprise me. I think a lot of times people have good intentions, but don't necessarily know how to properly address, because we're only prepared to deal with what we've been prepared to deal with. And so when we hear something like this, we have these quick solutions that really don't dig deep enough and resolve any conflict. And so when I hear stuff like that, that makes me think that maybe the wife was doing something wrong, or the wife wasn't good enough in a particular area, which led to the affair. And as we kind of unpack the reasons why people cheat, you're going to realize that there are an incalculable number of reasons that contribute to it.
Yeah, because that was such horrible advice. And I like to say, but I'm a pastor, so this is not nice to say, but I like to say sometimes the worst relationship advice, comes from pastors sometimes, because we have a superhero complex. We feel we have to give an advice to every situation.
Yes.
And I think it's high time pastors stayed on course on where their real gift and training is.
Yes.
All right. If you're not into a marriage, you're not skilled or trained or certified as a marriage counselor, just stay with the Bible and refer the person. All right. To someone. It's like someone coming to me that they need legal advice. I have no skill, no training, to give legal advice. So let's learn to refer people to people that are equipped.
As a former pastor, I've been in ministry for quite some time. I oftentimes have conversations with pastors behind closed doors, and a lot of them are like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to say. But you're right. We try to be all things to all people, and we're doing people a disservice. And so when you're partnered with someone who knows what they're doing, or like yourself, if you get trained and you're able to adequately do it yourself, now you can make impact in the lives of other people.
And the interesting thing, even as a pastor, when you get trained, you can't be trained in every area.
Sure.
So there's still a lot of areas you're going to have to refer people or get people in your congregation
Exactly.
to do those trainings. You know, there are times, because I'm also a professional therapist and counselor, there are times they've signed me up with a client that has, you know, mental health issues, and I'm not equipped to do that at all. So we have to cancel the whole subscription and refer them somewhere. I can help you. I'm a marriage counselor. I'm a relationship coach. I'm also an infidelity recovery specialist. So I have a scope of expertise. So I really can't do everything and everything, even though I'm a pastor. So
and let me just say, being a part, first of all of you should be an active part of your marriage ministry. But even if you are, that still doesn't replace counseling and therapy when it's necessary. Yes. You know, I think marriage ministry does a phenomenal job of speaking to a broad range of issues to keep your relationship in a good space. But then there are some other areas of trauma and difficulty that they can't speak to. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So please don't forget, if in case you're here, you're dealing with any infidelity issues, either in your relationship or in your marriage, please don't just cover it up and say, oh, apologize. I've seen people try to do that at years and years after the issue is still there because it was never properly dealt with. So please, there's such a thing as infidelity recovery therapy. So don't just say, sorry, it will never happen again. And just continue. Both of you will need healing. The marriage will need healing. But we're digressing too much. I don't want us to go too far. So today, the topic we're talking about today is, why do people cheat?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest questions that couples struggle with. As the betrayed spouse, the person who's been hurt, that's the question that haunts them. They can't move forward, heal, and forgive unless they understand why. And oftentimes the person who does it, they may not even understand comprehensively why they did it. So they may have a surface understanding, which really is not good enough for the betrayed spouse. And so that's why they remain stuck in their pain. But, you know, as we unpack this, there are a number of different reasons. So number one, I'll say 2 reasons we can point to. Either A, there's something that's going wrong within me that causes me to do it, or there's something going wrong inside of the relationship that causes me to do it, or a combination of the two. All right. So if you take 5 couples and they all go through the same exact struggle, what causes one couple to cheat, another couple to become verbally abusive, another couple to become physically abusive, another couple to just leave and not address the issue? Why do we all respond differently to the same thing? Well, the reason why we respond differently to the same thing is because even though we're all faced with the same pressures, the pressure forces out of us oftentimes what was already in us.
Yes.
So, for instance, if you're my spouse and we get into an argument and my knee-jerk reaction is to punch you in the face and give you a black eye, why would I do that and someone else wouldn't? Maybe I had some issues prior to our marriage of anger or physical aggression, and that pressure forced that out of me. Whereas somebody, maybe they were exposed to infidelity. So let's get into some reasons. Some people come from an upbringing where they saw infidelity in their home. So maybe mom and dad experienced it and we had a front row seat to it, or siblings experienced it. And we, in our young, impressionable minds, we say, oh, this is what marriage is. Yeah. You have your spouse, you have your mistress. That's the way it is. Everyone's doing it. So when I get married, I'm not thinking only one partner. I'm thinking I'm committed to somebody, but I have other options.
Yes.
Right. So that's what I come from. Or maybe the reason why I'm cheating in this relationship, because I've done it in my previous relationships. Matter of fact, one of the questions that we ask people is, have you ever cheated before?
Oh.
How many relationships have you cheated? And so some will say all of them. I never really had a serious commitment in my relationship. So that's all I've known. So I'm carrying what I've done in the past into my present relationship, right? So that's another contributing factor. Some people, they can point to how they're not being served in their marriage. So we call this the marital void. So for instance, some people say, well, we weren't having enough sex, so that's the reason why I cheated. Or I didn't feel as if you loved me anymore, so that's the reason why I cheated. Some people feel like, you know what, as a man, I don't feel as if I can be a man in my own home. Why? Let's talk about some of these dynamics. For men, a lot of times men base their manhood on their ability to provide for the family. Let's just say a wife is also working. She brings in money. So she's not necessarily financially dependent on the husband, or maybe she makes $1 more an hour than her husband. That makes her husband feel some type of way. So now I can't be a man of my own home because I don't make more. So if I can't be a man with you, I'm going to go out and find somebody else who's needy, who's dependent, who's financially dependent upon me, so I can feel with someone else the way I can't feel with you. So sometimes it's not a matter of problems in the relationship. Sometimes it's my own thinking, negative thinking, that draws me to a place where I do that.
Will you add things like someone not having enough sex?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
The guy has a high sex drive, for instance, wants to have sex every day. And the wife is saying, no, we can only have sex once a week.
Yes.
Once in 2 weeks. So is that a thing?
That's a huge thing. And this is why it's important for couples to really negotiate through what is healthy and appropriate in that marriage. A lot of couples, honestly, either A, have a whole lot of sex before they get married, and then once they get married, the desirability plummets for a wife. And I'll explain why. Oftentimes, women in particular, they desire two things. They desire marriage and family, a husband and children. That's a great desire. And if we are having sex before we get married, which makes you fall in love with me, so now we can get married,
yes,
I accomplished the goal. I gave you what you needed. You gave me what I needed. But interestingly enough, once they get what they desire, it often takes away their desire for sex.
Yes.
Because now as a wife, I have all these roles and responsibilities and duties. And now I'm a mother and I'm dealing with the children and cooking and cleaning and breastfeeding and all this. At the end of the night, I'm so tired.
Life has happened to you.
So the very desire that I had is gone once I got what I desired. So the desirability for sex plummets for a wife after marriage, but it remains constant for a man. So now we have these two different sexual libidos. And so he's frustrated because he wants sex when he wants it. She's tired. She's not interested. They're disconnected. They're dealing with bills and babies and all these other problems that impact the relationship. And she doesn't feel connected and loved. And so now we have a huge problem on our hands. And because we're not getting help, we're not going to counseling, we take the power back into our own hands and make decisions that compromise the integrity of the marriage.
And the flip side to this you're saying is interesting, is because also sometimes the man is showing a lot of, the way I say it is this: men use love to get sex.
Oh, yeah.
And women use sex to get love. So that's what you just described.
Yes.
Women use sex. So they are playing along with the sex thing to get love, to get security, to get the married family. So when both of them hit marriage, the man also sometimes drops the ball in showing love.
You hit it right on the head. So to that point, I will do whatever it takes. I will give you cards and candy and take you out on dates and give you physical affection and speak life into you, because that's the emotional side of sex that women are searching for. And then once we get married, we don't do that anymore.
We need to take you out anymore.
Right.
I don't need to buy you flowers.
That's exactly right.
Now sex is my right. So let it be waiting for me when I get
That's right. Now it's just like, you're my wife. You're supposed to give me this. This is why sex feels like a duty to women. It's no longer a delight. It's a duty. And so it's not like men don't know what to do. They just stop doing what they used to do.
Psychologically too, they just drop the ball. In fact, I have a new book out. It just came out 2 weeks ago. Maybe we'll still do something and discuss that book. It's titled How to Make Love to a Woman Without Touching Her.
Wow.
Yeah, How to Make Love to a Woman Without Touching Her. It has been selling off everywhere we go. So it's an amazing book. Either the men want it or their wives want them to get it, but it's been selling out everywhere. It's a best-selling book, How to Make Love to a Woman Without Touching Her. Men need to realize that the best way to get access to a woman's body is not to open her button, it's to open her heart. All right.
Let's just pause right there. Did you hear what he just said? That is so huge. A lot of men are looking to penetrate their wives physically, but not penetrate them emotionally with the heart. And that's the key to her body, through her heart.
Key. And she would give you her body.
Yes.
Even when she's not in the mood, if you know how to make love to her.
That is a fact. That is a fact. And so you have to understand that for a lot of women, their sexual needs are outside of the bedroom.
Exactly.
Men's sexual needs are inside the bedroom. But the quality of your sex life inside the bedroom is based upon how you function outside the bedroom.
Because men are very project driven.
Yes.
They do not appreciate the process. Women are process driven. So women like the whole process. And like they normally say, if you want to make love to a woman, you start is love, and love making for a woman starts in the morning.
Yes.
In the kitchen. How you're helping her with stuff, how you're fixing her breakfast or coffee before she wakes up. Things like that. That's what prepares her for what happens at night in the bed.
I want to reinforce what you just said. You said men are project driven and women are process driven. That's huge. If we could truly understand that, we could close this gap that causes so much frustration in our sex lives.
And most men don't realize that women enjoy every other thing beyond just the intercourse. But for men, the intercourse is the main thing, the project. But women enjoy the whole process, how you talk to her, how you touch her, and everything before the main.
And if we take this a little bit further, truth be told, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of women complain about this, they're not sexually satisfied in their marriage. They're not getting what they need. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we don't understand. Yes, I know I have a penis, you have a vagina, so physically we're different, but there's a difference in our sexuality, number one, that we need to be aware of. Number two, we talk about like the 5 love languages, right? So we know what those are. But when it comes to sex, there are different sexual personalities. There's something called the erotic blueprint, and there's 5 different types of blueprints. There's the energetic, there's the sensual, there's the sexual, there's the kinky, and there's the shapeshifter. The point is, without going into all the details, if I'm a sexual erotic blueprint type and my wife is a sensual erotic blueprint type, we're coming to the bedroom with our own styles, with our own expectations. Yeah. And oftentimes there's no connection. And what could have been wonderful is now weird and awkward and slow down, speed up.
And that is why we try to tell young people that there's nothing like sexual compatibility.
Yes.
It's only sexual commitment.
Yes.
Because both of you need to come there committed to pleasure and please the other person.
Yes.
Because young people are busy saying, I need to try it out before we get married. I need to make sure we're sexually compatible. The seasons of your life will keep changing. The desires of your life will keep changing. So
that's a fact.
So what you need to bring into the bedroom is a commitment to communicate, to understand, and to also please my partner.
You know what a powerful message for single people, because you're right. This whole idea, let me test it before I make a commitment. And you don't realize, if you did test it, let's just say, and it wasn't what you thought it should be, and you made a life determining decision off of an act, you're missing out on the gift of what your spouse could be bringing you in a committed relationship. And it's a skill. Sex is a skill. Just like communication is a skill, finances is a skill. You're going to learn it. And you're right. What my wife and I may have done 20 years ago, we're doing that today.
Yeah. The seasons keep changing.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at someone that's going to match your energy now,
absolutely,
that will be so in 5 months.
Absolutely.
By the time she gets pregnant, that will be so. By the time you have more bills to pay. So a lot of things are going to change. So what you really need is someone that is saying, hey, I'm committed to knowing what you like. I'm also doing my best.
Absolutely. Let's go back into some more of these reasons why people cheat, right? So it's important that when you sit down with your spouse or spouse to be, you begin to talk about their belief system and their philosophies and their definitions for things. Like, for instance, nobody gets married thinking that their spouse is not going to commit to them. But the question is, well, what does commitment mean for you versus me? I don't know if we've ever talked about this before. Maybe we have, but there's these 3 different types of commitment, right? There's red light commitment, yellow light commitment, green light commitment. And red light commitment says, stop, I'm not interested. I'm in a committed monogamous relationship with my spouse and there are no options other than her. But yellow light says, I don't know. You get to a yellow light, you can speed up and go past the light, or you can slow down. So I'm committed to my spouse for life, but I'm open to a side relationship with you, right? And so I think it's important for couples to have these working operational definitions, a philosophy that you both share so that you can feel safe and secure moving forward. Because if my idea of commitment or love or faithfulness is different than yours, we're going to have a problem without a shadow of a doubt. And so that's what we need to be mindful of. But here's another thing. Like, let's just talk about, forget sex. That's one huge piece. But when we're in conflict and we're fussing and fighting, and now we're not talking to each other and we're emotionally disconnected, and now we've gone from being soulmates to role mates to roommates, and I don't feel like I can connect and understand with you. Say I go to work. I have a colleague at work who's a friend. She's a female, and now she's pouring into me. She's giving me advice. She's giving me a listening ear. I'm able to connect with her in ways that I can't connect with my wife. Now, we may say that and say, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just conversation. But that begins the slippery slope. Because if my wife and I haven't defined rules of how we should engage members of the opposite sex, what could have been a normal, innocent conversation, it soon transitions into becoming inappropriate. Right. And now I have an emotional attachment and connection for someone. And a lot of times that forms the emotional affair, which can be just as damaging, if not more than a physical affair. Right. So I have an emotional need that's not being met because we're not connected, and I will emotionally connect with another person because we all have a desire to be understood and heard. And this is why communication is so important in a marriage.
That's phenomenal. So these are a few reasons why people cheat. We didn't mention addiction, sexual addiction.
Yeah. So when we're talking about the 4 different types of an affair, sexual compulsion is one of those, right? So I like saying that, number one, that is a legitimate addiction, but there are also these hidden addictions that are attached to affairs as well, sex being one of them. So the reality is a lot of people who are in phenomenal relationships, great sex, great communication, they still cheat. And the spouse is wondering, well, what am I not doing? I thought I was giving you everything you wanted. Well, it was an addiction inside of that one partner that had nothing to do with the spouse. So for those of you who are constantly blaming yourself for what your partner does, in this case, it's not your fault. There's a thirst and a hunger and a drive that hasn't been properly managed in that other individual that keeps driving them out. Or if not sex, maybe they're addicted to the new feeling. Like, think about it. You buy a car that has a new smell. You love driving it. After a while, it's just another car.
So they enjoy the hunt. They want to go out there again and get that.
Exactly. They're addicted to excitement. They're addicted to the thrill. They're addicted to the in-love feeling. The in-love feeling only lasts for a couple years.
Yeah, but you can get hooked on it.
Yeah, you can get hooked on it. And if you no longer feel the way you felt,
you jump to the next.
You jump into the next.
Absolutely.
And so, addictions is a real thing. But the problem is, Pastor, a lot of times people don't like to acknowledge that they have an addiction. Nobody wants to acknowledge that. I don't have an addiction. So what happens is they don't give enough attention to their issue. Nothing changes within them. And so now the same repeat behavior keeps happening
over and over.
Multiple betrayals because the real issue wasn't dealt with.
As we start to round up, I also think another way that you could tell that they'll be cheating and all that is when couples, you mentioned something about commitment level, when couples start from that disregard for the things of God from the beginning. When we tell people things like, let's leave sex till marriage, many young people see it as, it's out of fashion, doesn't make any sense. But you see, that is a good way to know that someone is willing to have sexual discipline.
Without a doubt. One of the greatest gifts about my marriage to my wife is that we waited. We waited till we got married to have sex. It was hard. It was difficult. She couldn't keep her hands off of me. We were strongly attracted to each other, but we knew that if we couldn't honor sexuality before I do, maybe we couldn't honor it once we got it. Yeah.
So it's a big issue amongst young people. They don't realize that they're laying a foundation for what the marriage is going to look like. It's going to be a marriage of 2 people that have no regard for rules, have no regard for principles, have no regard for boundaries, have a sense of entitlement that I can take something that is not mine. Once you have that mindset that I can take something that I've not paid for, then it means even when they get married, they would like to take something that they've not paid for. I like the way one of my mentors even put it. He said, if you're used to this kind of sex that involves hiding and running around, by the time you get married, you see there's no more hiding and running around.
That is so true.
But you're hooked on the running around and hiding kind of sex. So still go out there and look.
That is a good point. Let's go somewhere else with that. If for me, before I got married, sex was about hiding and running around. It was dirty in my mind. It was impure, stolen. Now, once I get married, if I still associate sex with that, then I go back to that behavior because I can't do that with my wife because this is pure, this is innocent, this is holy. So I can only find fulfillment in all of the dirty behavior. And so this is why there has to be a re-education, right? And it's important. That's why premarital counseling is so critically important. And a lot of people race to the altar, maybe because they're trying not to dishonor God. So we can't have sex. So let's get married right away. And then as soon as we get married, we can have all the sex we want. But they don't have foundation in their relationship to undergird a long-lasting commitment.
Wow. Thank you, Hasani, for coming out. We're going to move to the next video. Next video, we're going to talk about what do you do when you find out your partner.
Yeah.
So that's the next video. What do you do? So now that we've talked about why, because the why is, makes people literally almost run mad. Why did it happen? People always ask me that. Why is this man acting like? Why is this woman acting like this? So we're gonna go to what do you do when you find out partners? And in that next video, we'll also talk about who cheats more. Is it men? Men.
That'll be a great topic.
Yeah. All right. So hey, don't forget, guys, like, subscribe, use the super chats to support what we do. Comment and share this video, and make sure you also follow subscribe to all our other pages. Don't forget, if you need infidelity recovery counseling or you know somebody that needs it, you can reach Hasani or reach us on ldm.org. We'll be willing to provide assistance. All right. So God bless you. See you in the next video.
Take care.